Ahí se ve. Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting for the Rutherford Board of Education. We are so excited to see so many folks here today, and we're eager to get right into the program. So I'll ask that you all join me in Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open. Oh.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Here.
Mr. Chu? Mr. Healy?
Here.
Mrs. Jones?
Here.
Mrs. Librera?
Here.
Mr. Mazzone?
Here.
Mr. Racine?
Here.
Mr. Rowland?
Here.
Mr. McLean? You have a quorum. Thank you.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meeting of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Rutherford Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place of on the bulletin board outside the Borough Clerk's office, mailed to the Herald, South Bergenite, and the Record newspapers, and filed with the Borough Clerk. Hard copies of the agenda are available in the meeting room, and the agenda is posted electronically on the district's website at www.rutherfordschools.org. Regular meetings of the Rutherford Board of Education will be broadcast without editing during a 2-hour segment, as limited by Comcast time constraints, on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m., Comcast Public Access Channel, and on FiOS Channel 38. A video of the meeting can also be viewed on our website at www.rutherfordschools.org. The video link can be found by opening the Board of Education link and clicking on Public Meetings and then Videos. Any member of the public who wishes to view a DVD of the meeting can make that request in writing to the Board Secretary. Okay, so the first order of business is to approve the minutes from the last meeting. To the board members, each of you should have received those minutes in your packet. Any comments? Any changes? Okay, we'll enter those into the record. Okay, now we can move on to the first presentation of the evening. I'd like to introduce Ms. Megan Coy, Supervisor of Elementary Education and Head of the Kindergarten Center and the Kindergarten Center team.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the Board of Education for having the kindergarteners here tonight. They're very excited. We have representatives from all the classes here. Because of the reorganization of the school, we've now been able to bring Spanish and art, as well as music and science, along with physical education, into the kindergarten level. So we're going to show you how our thematic planning from the teachers and with the specialists have come full circle. So I'm going to introduce my kindergarten friends. Come on over, kindergarten. And Mrs. Corey Ogden, our science specialist, will introduce our topic of the evening. Come on over, friends. Come on over.
Can I go over there, please? Members of the board, family, parents, hi. My name's Corey Ogden. I'm the science specialist. And myself and our wonderful itinerants have put together something beautiful. What do you do with a lovely bunch of 800 kindergartners? You pray a lot, drink lots of coffee, and come up with something really appropriate. They're gorgeous, and what we basically did is we needed something that they could grab onto, literally. They were going to study for the first time life science, earth science, and physical sciences. So I needed something to bind them together, and these wonderful people joined right in and helped. The only thing that's solid around poor, humble little K Center is the fine and strong cherry trees out front. So there it began. All of that we were going to study would revolve around that and the wonderful visits to Lincoln Woods. Tell me you don't love Lincoln Woods, right? We love it. You love it. They love it. We watched change. The living is about change. And when we started, and they were so little, they couldn't even write one letter, some of them, we learned about where we live, right? Where do we live? Don't say Rutherford. What is a sphere? The earth is a sphere, my dear. That's right. So let me be perfectly clear, right? She flies through space around her what? Her star. What's a star? Gas ball. Boom, boom, bang, bang. Oh. Anyway, okay. So we watched. To be alive means, well, what does it mean to be alive? Do I eat? Do I drink? Do I grow? I think I do, Right? Do I breathe in and out? So we learned about the living and the non-living. The tree is the living. She grows, she changes, and it's about, and look at those beautiful things. They're in their spring finery. So we made a painted record of our cherry tree as it went from fall, which is the rest stage, to, winter, the rest stage, summer, the food stage, spring, the flower or reproductive stage, and back to fall, getting ready for winter. And I'm going to end it here, and we also learned about habitats. We built a worm bin, we watched it change, they built the worm bin, and boy, they were good at it. And for physical science, and I'll leave it at that, is we learned the forces of push, pull. We did balloons, blew bubbles, and fired off some rockets. Loved it, okay? It was a great beginning. And joined with our beautiful art teacher who's going to help. I just wanted to end up with one thing, and I'm going to turn it over. Can you guys do it for me? She's going to share about that beautiful. How does our cherry trees make food? Ready? When the sun comes out, go ahead, repeat after me. When the sun comes out, what do the leaves scream to the roots? Send! Up! Water! And how does it get up? Up to the branches and up it goes to the leaves. What does it need? Sunshine! Water! Gas! And chlorophyll. Together. And it makes the sugar, and then what does it have to do? It's got to get it back down to the roots, right? How does it do that? Take a taxi? No! It goes drip, 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 into the roots and sugar!
Thank you, Mrs. Ogden. Good evening, everyone. Some of you, if you don't know me, my name is Laura Clossy. I'm the art teacher at the K Center as well as Washington and Lincoln Schools. Just love it. So exciting. And the students have had so much fun, and it's been great working with my colleagues, just connecting on all different levels in the Spanish, in music, and bringing it all together with the science. So I've done a lot by going along with what Mrs. Ogden has been doing in the science classroom. So we created these lovely cherry blossoms, and throughout the year we adopted a cherry blossom tree. So downstairs, right when you walked in by the office, Mrs. Ogden created this wonderful tree, and as the seasons were changing, we would add things and they would come down, and we would add things and they would come down. So as of right now, the cherry blossoms are still up, so we're going to just change them up, actually on Wednesday. But what we did was made these beautiful cherry blossom branches, and we had our first time we were framing some artwork, making things look a little bit more sophisticated, and the students were doing just a fabulous job.
And they've been able to, following the directions and learning about different artists and gathering information from my class into the other special classes, which I think was a great experience for them. So I just wanted to share a little bit of art. Thank you. Mrs. Cormack?
Before the art goes away, can everybody just turn around so the board members can see your lovely artwork? Just turn around. Hey, everybody. Wow. Wow, now I know why everybody was taking pictures. Now we're at Ms. Cormack.
Thank you so much for having us here. And yes, it has been a joy to begin the K-3 program in our district and to have the opportunity to show off our little ones and their ability in second language, in Spanish this year. We're going to sing 2 songs for you. One is called Colors, Los Colores, to represent the colors of the changing seasons as part of the thematic lesson. And also we're going to sing Los Meses del Año, the months of the year.
Los colores, the colors, los colores. Red is rojo, blue is azul, yellow is amarillo, verde, green, black is negro, blanco is white, purple is morado, brown café, pink is rosa, gris is gray, anaranjado is orange, chaparral, hooray!
All right, we're going to complete the music portion by doing what we do best, and that's singing.
Sing the rain.
kindergarteners, you did a great job. Give yourselves a pat on the back. Fantastic.
I want to thank Ms. Coy and the teachers and the students and the parents. It really is wonderful to see everyone here tonight and to enjoy this. And you guys were great, singing in so many different languages and about science and about art. And of course, any of the parents who are planning a summer party, Ms. Ogden's available for cabaret act. But the other thing that's really the beauty, Ms. Coy mentioned the reorganization and bringing the specialist into the kindergarten. But these outstanding teachers are going to work with these students from grades K to 3. So the development of art and music and science and Spanish will grow, because not only will the subject continue, but the instructors who they're working with will also go with them. So we've been saying this all year, but it bears repeating to the board and to the community. The changes that we've made are producing these wonderful, wonderful results. So congratulations and thank you.
I just also like to add thank you, a big thank you, and congratulations to all of our presenters tonight. That was a wonderful presentation. So thank you all for coming. And I would say that while there's a lot of great and exciting things that happen at board meetings, these program profiles are definitely top of the list. It's really exciting and neat to hear about things that are happening at the schools, and also to hear directly from the students themselves. So thank you very much, kindergartners. Okay. So what we're going to do next is move into the student recognition portion of the program. So to our kindergartners who are looking to get home, this would be a good time to exit. And we'll move on to the awards at this point.
You want me? I'll do it. Let me do it. I'm going to ask Ms. Librera to join some of our supervisors. We have with us tonight, I'll just wait one moment, okay? Just to... Then we'll just clear up.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll continue with our presentations. Ms. Librera will join some of our supervisors who are here tonight. We have with us Mr. Ursulisi, who is the supervisor of language arts and fine practical and performing arts. Ms. O'Donnell, who is the supervisor of business and our technology department. Ms. Schmenning, who is our STEM supervisor. They are here tonight to do some other presentations as well. But many of these awards that we're about to honor our students with come from their departments that their teachers and have worked with our students in guiding them to these accomplishments. What we're about to do, as we do every June, is recognize some students who really have gone beyond just the local. These are students who have achieved either on the county or the regional or the state, and in some cases national level. So, Ms. O'Donnell, you're first?
Yep. We had 3 students this year compete. We had a lot of students compete, but 3 students who won the online regional competition for the Future Business Leaders of America. And they were Virgil Minnick, congratulations. Madison Famey. Congratulations. And Jillian Davis.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Brian Ursulisi. I'm the supervisor of English Language Arts and Fine Arts, Practical Arts, and Performing Arts. So this evening, I've got a few things to go through. We're first going to recognize the students who were selected for Bergen County Choir. What I'm going to do is call all of their names because we have a huge amount of talented vocal students. We'll bring them up and then we can do one round of applause for those students. So Rian Chowdhury, Angela Gaudio, Russell Gomez Martinez, Sophia Kim, Kaylee Nam, Ryan Salfino, Tierra Sherlock, Alexandra Tasev, Jonathan Yap, Mary An, and Sarah Zurle. These are all students who were selected for the county choir. Congratulations. All right, if you guys want to come over and get certificates, Ms. Schmedding has certificates for you. And I spoke way too quickly, and she's annoyed at me that I spoke so quickly, but that's okay.
We're going to shake hands like 4 times. So congratulations, Brian. Congratulations.
And I should mention that the last 2 folks that I called, Mary and Sarah, are Union School students. So they came from the middle school into the county choir. That's very impressive. Congratulations. I'm sorry, Ms. Schmedding. I will speak slower next time. We just watched Zootopia at home with I'll be the sloth at the DMV. All right, the next group of students, same way I'm going to call them all, but slower this time. These are the students who were selected for Region 1 choir. So that's beyond the county. The state is broken up into several regions. These are then students who are in Region 1, which we are a part of. Joanna Calvo, Rian Chowdhury, Cecilia Cerny, Russell Gomez Martinez, Sophia Kim, Kaylee Nam, Tierra Sherlock, Alexandra Smachinsky, Alexandra Tasev, Jonathan Yap, and again from Union School, from the middle school, Mary An and Gabriela Campos. So congratulations. Yep, come over. Congratulations, guys. Very nice. And again, the students from Union School, it's very impressive that in Rutherford we have students from the middle school entering these select choirs. And finally from choir, 4 names we've heard already, so we'll bring them back. These are students who were selected for the state choir. This is the New Jersey All-State Choir. This is an audition process that goes beyond the county process, and these are 4 students from Rutherford High School. And again, we're extremely proud. Russell Gomez Martinez, Sophia Kim, Tierra Sherlock, and Alexandra Tasev. Congratulations. And now they will all stand and sing the months of the year in French this time. No. And I'm going to turn this over to... Nope, me. This is the Consumer Sciences. These are students who went to the Spring Leadership Conference, and this is, again, a national conference who were awarded either a gold, a silver, or a silver award. So Katie Carton, congratulations. Megan Chow. Jillian Davis. Grace Kylan. And Rosie Schnackenberg. And some of you will be heading to Nashville this summer. All of you will be heading to Nashville to compete in the national competition. So congratulations. One of the best parts of my job is watching and getting to visit all the different classrooms. And I have a wide variety of rooms that I get to visit, whether it's an English classroom or a textiles classroom. And I'm always just incredibly impressed at how versatile our kids are. I can go into an English 300 class and hear the same student who was just talking about dropping a stitch in a textiles class, talking about the analysis of Catcher in the Rye. And I think what makes a truly well-rounded student is something we should be proud of here in Rutherford, that we have these programs. And the last award that I have for our arts program would be for Ryan Green. Ryan Green placed in the Ramapo Film Fest. Rutherford High School entered some of our short films and our filming projects, and Ryan took home a prize, so congratulations. All right, and I do have one more here. This is not related to any of the specific disciplines, but as somebody who was a member of Troop 166 a very long time ago, we are very happy that and very, very proud of Scott Catlett, who earned his Eagle Scout Award. So if Scott is here, we have an award for him as well. All right, and now I will turn it over to Ms. Schmedding, who will probably speak quickly to get back at me.
I'm going to have to talk even faster for a little bit of payback. My name is Danica Schmedding. I'm the supervisor of STEM, so I have science, math, engineering. And I'm here today to talk about two of our robotics teams. First, I'm going to talk about the high school robotic team that came in both first and third at the North Jersey Robotics Competition. They competed against a lot of schools that have, I'm just going to raise this up a little bit, that have a robotics class. And right now, we're in the high school, we're just a club. So it's a really great accomplishment. They competed and did so well and really, dominated a competition against these schools. So I'm going to announce these students. First, Armando Andler. Brendan Brinksma. Marcus Cabibbo. I know he's here. Marcus. Annette Chichiriga. Is that right? Dishant Jodhani. Sophie Lowe. Gavin Nima. Claude Ryan. Ilya Shellis. Justin Wheeler. And Miles Whitford. Okay, and now to announce and who we have all sitting up here in the front here, so I know we'll have a few students up here. And if you guys maybe want to stand up here first, that way we can give you one big round of applause and I'll announce all of your names. So our middle school robotics team went down to Kentucky and competed in the Worlds and ended up, and you guys could fact check me, you're 154th. And their enthusiasm and all the wonderful things they've been doing this year is really just very exciting. So to announce them, and I apologize if I get anybody's names a little wacky. As I said, my first name is Danica, so I apologize because my whole life had happened to me too, so I'm really sorry. Juan Aguitos, is that close? Okay, there we go. Go ahead. Congratulations. You can go back there if you want. Go ahead, yeah. Ari Kamat. Pratik Seth. Congratulations. Sid Sidharth. Congratulations. Sebastian Smith. Batu Tamruk. And Mahogany Benson. Take one good picture, guys. Great, and I'm going to pass it over to Brian or Salisi again.
Sorry. Congratulations, robotics team. Awesome. STEM team. We have two more. This is a student who was recognized from Pierpont School in the County PTA Reflections Contest. Every year we do local PTA contest entries. It could be for an essay, it could be for something artistic, and it's always on a specific theme. This year the theme was on the idea of reflections, and this student's piece went from a school winner and a district winner to being a county winner. So congratulations to Thomas Conlin, who won the essay contest, second place in the county. Thomas, congratulations. Awesome job. Nice. And finally, we have a national award winner. This is the 2017 American Association of French Teachers. This is the National Outstanding Senior in French. So, très bien. Kaylee Nam. Congratulations. Thank you very much. As you know, we are extremely proud of the work that these students do every single day. And this is just I know it seemed like a lot, but this is just a small sampling of the wonderful things that are happening in our classrooms, in our schools, day in and day out. So thank you for letting us showcase these students.
You know, we need to keep in mind that when we hear about county winners, that Bergen County has more school districts than many states do. To win awards on the county level is significant, but then when you have several groups of our students who are going, or individual student being recognized at a national level, and in some cases even an international level, is quite an accomplishment. So congratulations to everyone. And
so we'll take a short 3-minute break, and then we'll move on with the rest of the meeting.
They were leaving. We can even take a lesson now. So Mr. Lee's going to go next. And then just, yeah. I noticed everybody's making between 5 and 7.
They have to feed them, they get jump points, and jump in it.
I'm going to watch your break. Yeah, he's a break.
So when the max level, then
you can even mention those. All the goals that you achieve, you achieve the fire rate. That's why I was talking about myself. Okay, I think we can go.
Congratulations.
There's some on
Okay. So next we have a couple of exciting presentations that we will walk through. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hurley. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we do that, not that this isn't an exciting presentation, we have Mr. Matt Lee, who is our field services representative for Bergen County for the New Jersey School Boards Association. He's going to talk to us about the superintendent evaluation process.
Thank you. Well, I'm sure this is very exciting, but not quite as good
Very
as
exciting.
Singing in different languages. I was happy to be here for those, though, because as my time as a board member, the best meetings were always the ones where you had children presentations and awards and things like that. So thank you for inviting me tonight. What I'm here to talk about during this busy time of year is one of your main responsibilities as board members, and that is the appraisal of your superintendent. As you all know, the process kicked off early in the spring, where the superintendent was invited to enter his performance benchmarks within our system so that the board members could then put their input against each of those criteria. Included among those are a bunch of leadership criteria and also progress toward district goals that the superintendent has achieved throughout the school year. So what I have in my hand, and I will turn over to Mrs. Labrera as I leave tonight, is the results of that compilation. So this is the superintendent's input plus the board member's response to that. What I've placed on your desks prior to the meeting beginning is a packet that looks like this. And this is just some backup information for you all to use in guiding you through the process. What I would ask you to pull out right now very quickly is this salmon sheet called Next Steps in the CSA Evaluation Process. And I'll just walk you through very quickly the next steps as we move forward. As you know, I have the compiled documents here to turn over to you, and your next step as a board is to supply your superintendent with a rice notice for a meeting at which you will sit down just as a board and review the results of these compiled documents. The purpose of this meeting is for you to come to a consensus on the superintendent's performance based on his input and the board's input. The next step is for the Board of Education president or whoever the board president designates to create a summary document. And the summary document is to reflect the majority opinion of the entire board. I usually like to think about this process from a corporate perspective. So typically in a corporation, you would have a single person who reviews your performance. In the case of a superintendent, you have 9 people reviewing your performance. So you want to make sure that the document reflects a consensus so that the superintendent understands where everybody stands in terms of his performance. After that document is written, it is presented back to the board. Again, the superintendent is given a rice notice because you're discussing his performance. And the board must agree that the document does reflect the opinion of the majority of the board. And once that has been agreed to, the next step is for the board president to supply a copy of that summary document to the superintendent a few days prior to a meeting at which the board and the superintendent sit down and review the documents and the summary document. At this at this meeting, minority opinions which are not reflected in the summary document may be discussed verbally with the superintendent. Finally, the evaluation is signed and dated, given to the superintendent to put in the personnel file. At that point, the superintendent may attach any supplemental data that he may want to add to the review. He has 10 teaching days to do so. And after that, the process is complete. So, very quickly, any questions? Okay, excellent. The packet does contain a sample rice notice. It does contain a couple sample summary documents. It also contains changes to the accountability regs that have just taken place in the beginning of May. And it also has an evaluation calendar within it, which will guide you in starting the cycle all over again, which happens when you set your district goals. So, I will now turn over the documents to Ms. Librera.
The sealed envelope. Thank you very much.
Just an announce a lot on that.
One other quick note. I just wanted to mention that amongst your board, you have a very recently recognized member, Diane Jones, was given an award by the Bergen County School Boards Association called the Janet Lobsons Award, which is meant to recognize excellence among school board members. And I was very happy and proud to see Diane receive that award, so I just wanted to mention that tonight and congratulate her once again. Thanks all, and I will see you again. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to the next presentation. Mr. Hurley?
One of the goals that the district I had this year was to look into our SAT and ACT scores. So I asked Dr. Hopkins, our Director of Guidance, Mr. Salisi and Mr. Schmedding, who you've already met, with language arts and math, to take a look at the our scores to see how they rate compared to other assessments we do and see what things we may want to do going forward to improve on them.
Okay, so myself, Dr. Hopkins and my backup dancers, Ms. Schmedding and Mr. Ursulisi, met a couple of times throughout the year after Mr. Hurley asked us to take a look at our SAT and our ACT scores to date. Oh, thank you. Is this going to work from here? Yes, it does. Okay. So Mr. Ursulisi put these two slides together that show the schools within Bergen County. So they're kind of split between the higher performing districts, Tenafly, Ridgewood, Glen Rock, Leonia, Pascack Hills, Midland Park, Fairlawn, and Paramus, and then the lower performing districts. So as you can see, we are at the top of the lower performing districts, so we're kind of smack in the middle of Bergen County in terms of our SAT scores. You can see their math and reading. So just a quick look back at some of the scores broken down by year. The class of 2014, 89% of them took the SAT with mean scores of 509, 544, that's out of 800. 27% took the ACT with a mean composite of 21. Class of 2015, pretty much about the same. The critical reading score was exactly the same. But we had a smaller percentage of students who took the ACT, but their mean composite was a little bit higher. And then the class of 2016, we had our highest numbers taking the SAT. And where'd my ACT number go? We also had the highest, I'm sorry, I think it's cut from the slide. We also had our highest number of ACT scores that year, and also the highest composite. So while our scores are on the rise, here are some observations. So the SAT changed format and scoring in March of 2016. So starting in March of 2016, they went back to the way it was with the 1600 score. They actually, what they really did is, for the first time ever, the ACT outpaced the SAT in terms of the number of students taking it in the country. So the SAT kind of took a look at themselves and said, how can they change to make sure that they are as reliable and as valid as the ACT was becoming. So they changed their format to now have critical evidence-based reading and writing and math, and then also the writing section was now the writing section was, you could sign up for that if you would like, as well as the optional, thank you, as well as the ACT. I apologize. SATs became uniform across the discipline, with mean scores being 541 and 544. So this is also the first time with the new test, is that now we're seeing our evidence-based reading and writing and our math scores pretty similar, whereas in the past there was a little more of a distortion between the two. The number of students taking the ACT is definitely growing. Something else that's interesting now is that PARCC, SAT, ACT content are aligned as of March 2016. So in the past, students sat for the SAT almost in a vacuum. It looked very different from any other test they were receiving in terms of a standardized test from the state and the ACT. Now they're all kind of aligned and have the same content and type of questions. Okay, so what are our goals? While the students at Rutherford High School score well above the state average for SAT, ACT, PARCC, and AP, our SAT scores place us firmly in the middle when compared to other schools in Bergen County. Our goal is to have our SAT, ACT scores meet the performance levels that our students achieve on the AP exam, which is the last slide, because I want to end on a positive note. Okay, so moving forward, here's what we are doing in order to see that through. Both Math and English Language Arts discussed the changes to the SAT in their department meetings in March. They discussed how they can make changes in the curriculum, and how students are assessed in the classroom can reflect the changes. Teachers were provided with resources to use in the classroom, and then the ELA resource and the math resource is listed there. Some other things are we have quite a few resources available to students. Current juniors received information regarding the Khan Academy when they received their PSAT scores in December. So the Khan Academy partnered with College Board. It is free. Students log into the Khan Academy, and it will ask them, do we have permission to access your PSAT scores? If they give them permission to access them, they give them a free, personalized instructional tutorial to work through in order to improve their scores. I can say that, having met with some of my juniors in the last month, the ones that did that actually really saw some increases in their scores. And again, it's completely free and individualized. So we have discussed all of that with our juniors. Our RHS database in the Media Center Library contains free practice materials for SAT, ACT, PSAT, AP, the ASVAB, pretty much any test you could possibly take, any standardized test. This year, at the beginning of the year, Mr. Carlo, the head of the media department, the media center, met with all the guidance counselors and showed us all those databases and how the students can access them and what they have. Basically, each standardized test has 3 free practice tests. They have questions of the day, they have time tests, they have the actual Barron's books they can download all for free. So what happened this year during scheduling was we actually had an intern in the guidance office. So as students came in to meet with their guidance counselor to choose their schedules, we had them sit with the intern to log into the database to show them, here's where all of these materials are, again, available to you for your use. And all of this information was shared at junior conferences, which take place in January and February, and again at College Information Night in March. In the 2017-2018 school year, so this year was the first year that the pre-ACT was offered by the ACT test company. This year we offered it to sophomores. We had about 60 take it. Next year, all of the sophomores will take the pre-ACT. It is normed for sophomores, and then all of the juniors will take the PSAT. Our hope is that they will have experience with both tests, so that at the end of junior year, when they're starting to prepare to take whichever standardized test they want to take for college admissions, they have had experience with both, and then they can make the decision as to which to prep for and move on. The tests, although the SAT has become more similar to the SAT, it is still to the ACT, they still are different. So some students might feel more comfortable with one format or the other. Next year, we're also going to have a new online database called IXL. It addresses foundational math and English language arts skills. It'll be available to students 9 through 11 infused in the classroom in language arts and in math. It was piloted this year in a couple of the classrooms. And the feedback we got from the students was that they enjoyed it, and they actually kind of saw it as a competition because they would log in and they were all trying to get to 100%, 100%, 100%, when really 65% was mastery. So they were like, no, we got to get to 100. We have to get to 100. And this was not, it wasn't just used with honors classes. It was used across the board in all different levels, and they all kind of felt that same way about it. So I know we're excited about that. So I wanted to end on a positive note. So this is our AP 5-year school score summary. I know it's a little small and it's hard to see, but I could just give you the highlights. So this year, Rutherford High School scored 76, 75. Mr. Morano would kill me for not knowing that exact number. But in the state, in terms of high school, and one of the criteria by which we were judged on is our AP scores. And as a result of the percentage of our students, which this year was 89%, last year was 92% of the students who take the test get a 3 or higher, which is considered passing. That's a very large percentage of students taking the test. And why we're so proud of this is because we've actually lessened our criteria. So we've allowed students more access into these classes. If you're telling us that you want the challenge, then we want to give you the access to the AP class, and they have done a phenomenal job with it. So our goal is we want our SAT scores and ACT scores to match what we know the students have the potential to do because they've proven it the last couple of years with their AP scores. So we've had, Mr. Morano says all the time that we've had principals from around the county calling him to say, what are you doing? Why are your AP scores so great? And we've really what it is we've allowed access, and the kids have really taken the challenge, and so have our teachers. So it's gone very well. And that's it.
Questions?
Anybody have any questions for me? Or Ms. Schmedding or Mr. Ursulisi?
One of the things, and you know, we certainly are above average for the state and the nation, and the SATs always have been. Very rare that we've ever been not above average, but you know, how far above? And we are very proud of the fact that in other areas we're in the really higher percentiles, and this we're not. Now we know that we have a large number of students who take the test, which, you know, obviously the more students who take the test, you can have, you know, lower averages because it's not just the top 30 or 40 or 50%. We have 89, 90, 92% taking the test. But even so, as Dr. Hopkins said, we've increased the number of kids who are taking the AP test, and our scores have actually gone up. So we wouldn't have to do anything, and our kids get into good colleges. They do well. We never get knocked down because of these scores. But our goal is to be better than just being good. So some of these subtle changes that are being made, and some of the realignment of curriculum to the new standards, hopefully, and some of the just the awareness. Sometimes if you talk about things with teachers and with parents and with students, it becomes a more real issue to address. So we're hoping that some of these subtle changes will help move us a little bit further. Okay, we're good. Okay, thank you. This is a night of presentations. We have with us the Supervisor of Student Services, Ms. Michelle Perez-Hohen. She'll also be joined, I don't know if they've worked out the routine, but she's going to be joined by Mrs. Coy again to talk a little bit about our special education programs that we've instituted this year and for next year.
I'm Megan Coy, Supervisor of Elementary Education. It's me again. So first, congratulations for Diane Jones for being recognized. That's quite an honor to have you on our board for that. And really, I think where we have to start is thanking the board for everything they've done. I think the reorganization of Rutherford not only has allowed for a middle school and going forward, but we've also been able to start a preschool. It's only 3 years that we've had a full-day kindergarten program. So now we have a full-day kindergarten program. We have 2 pre-K3 classes, 2 pre-K4 classes, and a full-day class for the children that need more intensive teaching. And it's quite an accomplishment. So thank you for all your hard work and your time for it. By incorporating a preschool within our district, it really has done wonders for our general education students as well as our special education students. Our half-day program right now in pre-K3 and pre-K4 have general ed students as well as students who have special education needs. We're able to provide them with the speech services, the occupational therapy, the physical therapy, things that they need. In the more intensive classroom, we're able to have discrete trials throughout the day, help support them develop and foster social skills, and really give them the opportunity to practice them by going into the half-day classes, which is something that we are having them practice with the students that they live next door to, with the students that they're seeing at the baseball field or that they're seeing at the park or that they're seeing just around town. It's an opportunity that we couldn't have done for these students if we hadn't been able to bring them back to district. So I think it's just a tremendous growth, and I think having these students with that support right there is something, it's remarkable, quite honestly. Within that being said, our full-day program has really been an intense program. It's been able to meet the needs of the students with the discrete trials. The classroom is run very organized, very rigid, making sure that they can get their needs met, having the aids and the support that they need to help facilitate instruction, having the needs that they need by the teacher organizing everything. We've been able to utilize the behaviorists to help with the different behaviors that we need. We've really been able to do a lot for these children. That being said, as we're moving forward, these programs are going to be growing, and we're really servicing the children that are in Rutherford right now. We have already, for our full-day preschool program for next year, our class is full. So we are really meeting the needs of the people that are right here, who you may not know, but they're next door to you, they're walking down Park Ave with you, and Rutherford is really stepping up and saying, we're here for you, and we're going to keep being there for you. We're also giving them those opportunities to meet people in the community who they aren't familiar with seeing, such as the principals at the schools who they might just see in passing, as well as we've had the librarian, Miss Jane, come from the Rutherford Public Library to the preschool, and she's been able to be a familiar face, so these parents now have had that exposure. That's something that we're helping facilitate. Again, if they weren't in our community, we wouldn't have that opportunity, so thank you for that. And with having this class full next year, we're losing some moving forward to the next MD class going on at Washington School. From Washington, they're going to Lincoln School. And there's a few moving forward, but those open spots, like I said, are full. So really, we're meeting the needs of the population that does exist. We're not looking at a district to fill these spots. They're here in our community, which is why we're expanding our programs. We have the MD class opening up in Lincoln next year, which will then continue the services for the students that they need. And it's going to be a similar intensive teaching type of program with the opportunity to help facilitate socialization as they improve. Michelle's going to take it from there, so I took bottom up. I'm at the little lower kid level, so.
Before I begin, I just wanted to reflect a little bit on my year as a supervisor of student services. It's been an honor, given this responsibility of all the different roles that I've had, not just with the special education, but through the general ed part of it, which is RTI, some of our general ed students that have had some significant social emotional needs, the therapeutic program that we've instituted. So I really thank you for the opportunity to head this from a different part where I was a school psychologist in the high school and seeing it holistically happen all throughout the district. I thank all the administrators and different support staff that I've worked with all through the year, Mrs. Coy, to give us a good opportunity and foundation for our students to succeed here as we bring them back out of district. As we're growing from the MD classroom that we're creating next year, we're going to be going in that direction forward and into the future. We have an MD class at Union School that we have full, and it's been a success story. I'm so proud of that class. I'm so proud of those students that are there. They're integrated in the community. They are part of the culture. They are working in the classes and outside of the classes. Their teacher is using techniques that you only see out of district and now being brought into district with multisensory techniques, intensive teaching. The valuable asset that this teacher has provided, even our teaching assistants have proven very successful. As we go forward, that also is going to grow to the high school level. And ultimately, as you all know, our 18 to 21 program that we have right now, it's going to be a career education center in my eyes for our students that as they leave and do need further services to become functional adults in our community. They've done it since they're little all the way to their, to their adults and being part of the community. They will be part of this program. We're looking at this facility, getting it ready to be up and running in September. We have a curriculum, we have a teacher, we have already made different relationships with businesses in the community. We're there and doing intakes with other students around different towns, so that way we can keep growing and be a model in Bergen County and pretty much the state, hopefully, as 18 to 21 program for adults to become functional members of their community, and they will be able to be seen around their community from when they're young all the way up. So I find it as an exciting time to be part of this whole endeavor that we're doing. The other things that I do get involved with this year has been the Pathways to Success program, which is our therapeutic intervention program that is serviced by our SACs, which are student assistance counselors. They've done such a tremendous job of getting interventions early on to students that pretty much would have been maybe an out-of-district student at some point with school phobia and school anxiety. Their singular focus that they have now, as in the past when they had different things that they needed to do in their day, now their single focus is to intervene when it's necessary right away. I think it's been a huge success because our numbers are not that big. Not that we aren't servicing these students, but we're intervening at an early level and getting them back in the classes sooner. Part of that also, I oversee the response or intervention program overall in the district. Last year we met as a group. We developed a manual to be consistent from one group to the next, and from one school to the next. But from what I've seen and meeting all the different administrators and the coordinators that work in the buildings, they've used the manual, they've used the letters and forms as a foundation. They love the online form that we've done for referrals, but they've tailor-made it a little bit for their own schools. What they do at the K-3 level, am I wrong, is different than at the high school level. Dr. Hopkins mentioned IXL, which is what they're doing at the high school level, whereas in Pierpont School, they're doing peer-to-peer tutoring and different types of interventions. But the manual is there to service them and to help build a foundation to promote the consistency. I don't know if I missed anything. I think pretty good. Any questions?
It's not a question, but it is a comment. I think we would appreciate it. Rosemary Couric is the Director of Special Education in River Edge.
Yes.
River Edge. And she's also a Rutherfordian.
Yeah.
And she caught me the other day and she goes, oh, I am so happy to see that Rutherford's keeping their students in, and she was grateful to our special ed team and the superintendent for helping us to get that through. And it's such an important aspect, and especially with our new program, the 18 to 21.
Thank you, and people have reached out to me and thanked me,
So
thanked
you
us.
notice, you know,
Yes,
how the
exactly, and that's, you know, so it's just one person, it's all of us together promoting this. So yeah, I've had parents and community members reach out and said that it's a great thing that this is happening, where we're going and where the future is, so.
Anything else?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I would just like to add that, you know, I think that there are a lot of things in this district to be very proud of, but the areas of expansion in the in district special education services are really remarkable, and you know, I give you all the credit that you deserve, because to do this type of work really requires a sort of long-term vision and an idea that you're really building a foundation for something that's going to grow and flourish through the years. But you also need that eye on the day-to-day right now, and that foundation wouldn't be successful, the whole program wouldn't be successful down the line, but for the work that you all are doing day in and day out. So definitely commend you. I think this is, it's wonderful work.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here tonight and echoing what was said. And you know, before we move on to the final presentation, you know, they're both Ms. Coy and Ms. Hohen both have done a lot of visiting of other districts, a lot of phone calls to other people, bringing people into the district on the levels that they're working on, so that you know, we're trying to hit the ground running with some very challenging programs, so that but you know, for those students, it has to be ready. It can't be a pilot. So there's been a lot of work put in to get this up and running, and we've made a lot of strides in a very short time. Speaking as a segue, strides in a very short time, we had a 5-year goal, and to get to the one-to-one. We've been talking about this. And as you know, we're getting there in 3, and we thank the REF, and we thank the board, we thank the community. But just like with the supervisors who were up before, Ms. O'Donnell, who's the supervisor of technology, the director of technology, a lot of the heavy lifting falls there. So I want her to walk you through exactly where we are and where we're going to be.
So what I'd like to do tonight really is explain what one-to-one is and how we got here and really where we're going. The other day, somebody said to me, when you say we're going one-to-one, what does that mean? And I realized that there might be some people that don't know what it means. And basically, it means there's a device for every student. And students will have full access to the device when they come into the building. Some of them will leave the device here at the end of the day, while others will take it home with them and then bring it back to school with them. So how did we get here? The vision that we have always had for technology in this district is to allow instruction to drive the integration of technology. We have never put devices over the importance of how do we teach, how do we enhance learning. When you allow the instruction to be really the focus of your technology integration, it challenges the teachers really to rethink and redesign learning activities. And to keep that going, with that vision in mind, we established in 2014 a blending learning committee. And their goal was to identify and to adopt the best practices for the use of technology as a way to enhance instruction and as a way to improve student learning. And during this time, we piloted devices. We piloted iPads, we piloted laptops, we piloted Chromebooks. And we always kept the focus on how is this going to impact student learning, how could the technology be used to enrich our classrooms. And by piloting things, we had a clear winner. And that winner was the Chromebooks and Google Apps for Education, which is now called G Suite. The teachers were excited. It increased collaboration among the students. It increased collaboration between the teacher and her students. And really, it lit a spark in everyone. And we also found that teachers were able to individualize instruction, because with G Suite for Education, they would be able to come into their room already knowing what kids were struggling with in the homework and things like that. So we had a winner when we went with the Chromebooks and with G Suite. So the next step was to pilot one-to-one. So we took a group of teachers, and it was a broad range of teachers. They weren't all tech people. And we gave them increased access to the devices, which were the Chromebooks. And I mean, a lot of them said, like, you know, Mr. Hurley invited them to be a pilot teacher. And then when he left the room, they would say to me, why me? Like, you know, what did I do? And I said, don't worry, we're in this together. So when we had our pilot teachers, we focused on professional development. And the professional development was ongoing training. But again, it focused on instructional shifts. How are we going to use this in our classroom? Important to that is our technology integration teachers, our IT staff, and our teacher leaders actually went into classrooms to help teachers with this. So it was a school-based, ongoing process of professional development. And we really did flourish. When you go into our schools now, you will see Chromebooks and all the devices being used constantly and creatively. While all this was going on in our classrooms, us as an IT staff, over the past 3 years, we redesigned and refined our wireless access points across the district. In 2015, we upgraded our internal network. This summer, we will increase our bandwidth, and we will also install a more robust internet filter, which will allow our students to take the devices home with them, and as long as they're signed in to the rutherfordschools.org account, they will still be under our internet filter. So, where are we now? Well, this is what happens now. The teachers sign out Chromebook carts in their rooms. They fight about the carts, because they all want the carts. They do fight about the carts. They fight about the carts. So you'll have a cart in your room. The kids will go over. They'll get the device. At the end of the block, they'll bring the device back. Then they go to the next class, and that teacher may or may not have a cart. And then, of course, park testing came, and we had to take the devices away. And that did not make us very popular people. Like, I heard a lot, why did Dr. Hopkins have to take our devices? But I said, yeah, steal was a word they used, but it wasn't really stealing. She just borrowed them for a while. So that's where we are now. Where do we want to be next year? 17, 18. If we look at this by grade level, at Washington and Lincoln School, they basically, for third grade, they are one-to-one. And they have the carts or Chromebook lockers in their classrooms for the kids to use, and the devices will stay there. In grades 4 and 5 at Pierpont School, there'll be a cart in each homeroom. And the kids will take the device to their specials and their cycle classes during the day, but return the Chromebook to that cart in the afternoon. The biggest change will be at grades 6 through 12. And at that level, the kids will be assigned a Chromebook. They'll have the Chromebook to use in school. They'll take it home with them at night. They'll use it for homework and things like that. They'll charge it. They'll bring it back with them the next day. Already on our website is a Chromebook handbook. Tomorrow there'll be a letter going out via a Connect 5 from Mr. Hurley explaining this program to our current 5th through 11th graders. Every parent and child will sign an agreement agreeing to use the Chromebook and what that means. And throughout the summer and throughout the end of the school year and throughout the summer, we'll continually communicate with people. But we've figured that if we got this agreement out now, we'll be ready to roll in September. And we've always taught digital citizenship throughout the district, but next year there'll be a renewed emphasis on digital citizenship, starting with kindergarten and going all the way through grade 12. And there really is excitement in the air. The teachers are just thrilled that the kids will always have access to the devices rather than trying to plan and trying to, sign out a cart somewhere. And how'd we get here? First, I'd like to thank the Board of Education, who I'm finishing my 26th year in the district. All the boards have always been supportive of technology in our schools. to Mr. Kelly and Mr. Hurley, who always support things that we want to do. The Rutherford Education Foundation also has always supported grants involving technology. But in about the 15-16 school year, they started approving grants for actually buying Chromebooks and Chromebook carts. And it really lit a spark because we had access to more devices. And again, this year, they were very generous in their donation to us for this project. To the administrators and supervisors, they are a group of people who always support our teachers when they want to take chances and they want to try something new. And not only do they do that, but they model technology integration. Not only in some of the classes they teach, but we had administrators flip faculty meetings this year. I flipped the instruction for the new grade book at Pierpont School. So they really do support our teachers, but they also practice what they're preaching, and that's very important to teachers to see. And lastly, to our teachers, who are always willing to try something new and never back down. So that's where we are right now.
Anybody have a question? Or? I do want to just say that, just like I mentioned with the special education, that Ms. O'Donnell and those committees that we talked about visited schools all throughout the state, not just in northern New Jersey. Spent the day. We went to a variety. When I say we, I mean I actually was at a few of these. I'm one of those guys who learned how to use a computer too, we went to conferences, workshops, international ones, national ones, local ones, and I think sometimes when I think of all that these folks do, and I think almost every conversation with Barbara in the past year or two has been about one-to-one has worked in there. I think every time I talk to Michelle, 18 to 21 works in there. It becomes almost like a mantra, But the key here, and I think Ms. Librero said it, is to have a group of leaders who work together. We share a vision. We work on that vision. We refine it. It makes going forward in these endeavors so much easier. And then I think when the board and the community can see the professional support that's behind a project, it makes support of that project from this level much easier too. So I thank you not only for your time on what was probably the longest night of presentations in Board of Education history, but for the work you've done to get us there.
Okay. Any other comments?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks. So yes, okay. You could leave that.
Okay, so we're going to be moving on. The next item on the agenda is the report of the student representative, who has been very patiently waiting his turn here. Hopefully you don't have any finals tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, I have like 3 projects due Friday. I already started.
Okay.
So looking at the calendar for the rest of the month, we have the sports dinner Wednesday the 7th. So that's all athletes, part of the varsity team, go get awards, multiple awards.
Can you move closer to the mic?
Oh yeah. That better? Sorry. Then to bounce off of what Dr. Hopkins said, the ACTs are this June 10th on Saturday. So we wish the students luck taking them. And then after that, like I said, it's benchmark week. So it follows the finals schedule. So it's half days, and then it's graduation for the seniors. So that's the month of June. And then for our sports ending the season, for the track team, we sent 4 individuals to the group meet along with the relay team. Out of the group meet, 1 individual, Jenna Rogers, qualified for high jump. She won the group, so she's going to the state meet of champions. Baseball, they did very, very well as well. They made it to the North 2 Section 2 finals, but unfortunately lost to Whippany Park. But they played a fabulous game. For tennis, senior Nikhil Sundaram, he rose all through the rounds of states, and his last match was yesterday or Saturday. I think it was yesterday, and he did very well in that. The softball team, they suffered an unfortunate loss early in the states, but they were rebuilding this year, so we're hoping they have a lot of potential for next year, which they do. So yeah, just wrapping it up for the year, basically.
Excellent. Thank you. And absolutely.
Thank you. Before Mr. Sullivan leaves, he's been reelected for one more year as our student rep, so he'll be returning.
Good for us.
Congratulations. And the accomplishment of Ms. Rogers as a freshman to win Group 2 and to then go to the Meet of Champions is, is really significant, and it certainly bodes well for the next 3 years. Not to put any pressure on her or anything.
Okay, so next we're with the report of the superintendent.
Right, I'm going to try to be brief and just talk about one item that's not in the communication that was sent and not necessarily on the agenda. A couple of quick announcements, though. In the communication, I apologize for that one page that didn't get printed. I did send it out electronically, and then I also reprinted it for you here tonight. But if you are interested in attending the high school graduation, please, I know you did today, Ms. Jones, it's easier if you email or call Linda so we keep a list, and then we can just forward that list over to the high school for the tickets. If there is inclement weather, and I was trying to see how to say this, and we have to move inside, we may have to restrict parents, non-parents, and because it's going to be very tight. So if that happens, I'll give you a call about whether or not we'll be able to access everyone who wants to be there. But hopefully we'll have good weather again this year. The long-term strategic planning group met the board's committee the night of committee meetings. I guess it was the Monday before Memorial Day. And we had a very good meeting. And in that meeting, it was really decided that based on the report that we heard from Dr. Valechko and our committee, that the common denominator was to take a look at facilities. I mean, everything pointed towards that. So the committee, in our discussion that night, decided that we should have a conversation with our architect, and Mr. Chapin, as you know, is now with Perrette Sumgen, and I did that. Mr. Kelly and I and Mr. Paterno set up a meeting. We met this past week with Mr. Chapin and some other representatives from the firm. And we gave him a copy of the report that Dr. Valechko presented to us. We reviewed some of the key points. We reviewed some of the things. And remember, Mr. Chapin has been our architect since 2001, probably 2000. He knows the buildings inside out. He was the one who did all the plans for the last renovation and so on. So when we talked about where there was deficiencies or where there was needs or where there was the opportunity to grow or not to grow, I mean, we didn't have to spend a lot of time catching him up to speed. One of the things the committee decided was it would be good to have Mr. Chapin come to a board meeting in the summer and have similar to what we did a couple of summers ago, where we have a conversation. And he could present, based on the information that Mr. Kelly, Mr. Paterno, and I presented to him, he could present to us some big picture ideas. These are some things that may or may not address concerns, and then get that were raised. Give us a month as a board to think about what he said, and give him some feedback, maybe through me, prior to the August meeting, where you can come back in August and say, okay, we've had some time to think, and we've had some time to talk. Now, what is it, if anything, you'd like to pursue a little more seriously? And I think as we talked that night, and Ms. Librero, Mr. Racine, and Mr. Chu and Mr. McLean were there, but they're not here tonight. If there's anything you want to add at this point, feel free. I think the idea of the committee that night, and I think the idea of the other committee, although they don't really, that wasn't their charge, was we could identify the problems, we could identify the concerns, but until we know what potential remedies there are, until we know what the cost of those remedies are, what the cost of doing nothing would be, we really can't make a decision. I mean, I can sit here, and as I sat with at the night of the committee, and as I sat with Mr. Chapin, and I could say, in my head, these are ways that we could address things at every building. But I don't know how much they're going to cost, and I'm not an architect or an engineer. I don't know if what I think is a doable plan really would be based on land and location. So I think this idea of inviting Mr. Chapin to our meetings in July, for him to present information based on what we gave him, then hear input and questions from you guys, then coming back in August and say, okay, now where do we want to go? So just at about 6 o'clock tonight, I received from Mr. Chapin this very detailed summary of our meeting. And I thought I would share it with all of you so you can see what we talked about that day and what he's going to prepare for a meeting in July. He's going to meet with Mr. Kelly and me again at the end of this month, June 26th, the day of our board meeting. So he'll come back with a little more direction of where he's going to do his presentation. I asked him if we could meet the day of the board meeting, so then that night I could come back and report to the board. This is what we talked about today. These are some of the things he's going to prepare for July. Okay? I also met with, Mr. Kelly and I also met with Mayor DeSalvo and Councilman Nunziata, and we discussed where the borough may be in terms of development and moving forward, and it really was just a conversation that we would keep each other informed of anything that the board might be thinking about pursuing in terms of facilities. He would keep me informed of anything that may be popping up in the borough. And also Mr. Kelly did engage for a new demographic study. We did one about 2.5 years ago, but to really guide Mr. Chapin, the new study is needed, and should we decide to go forward with any kind of plan at all, we would need a more recent study. So that also will be done before we meet with the architect in the summer. So I think, you know, we're still in an exploratory stage, but I think we need to explore with real facts and real information and not just conjecture. And that is my report. I don't know if Racine or Ms. Librera, if you want to add anything or anybody has any questions or comments. You know, certainly you didn't have time to really read this yet, but if you have any questions or comments that you'd like Mr. Kelly or I to have before we meet with Mr. Chapin again in June, just email me or call me.
I just wanted to echo what you just said, is that any future steps with planning, either be at another committee, nothing can happen until they have something to work off with, like a solid, like what's happening with facilities. Right. We don't know what can be done and not done.
Right.
So it's fruitless to go on without having this.
Right.
And I'll add too that, you know, I think these discussions are very important discussions to be having. And you know, if we end up going through the architectural review and we find out cost information that makes these proposals less attractive, we're still in a better place for having gone through the analysis and having had the discussion. I know I have been stopped by people throughout town with thoughts and ideas about the sort of long-term investments for future of the schools and things that we could do even better. And I just think it's really healthy dialogue. It's and I applaud the efforts of the superintendent and the team, the strategic planning team, because these discussions in and of themselves are very valuable.
And just one last thing, you know, I agree with exactly what Ms. Librera said, and you know, we can't, and Mr. Racine, we need to have the discussion. We need to know what we're looking at. But you heard tonight about all these new programs and innovations and things we're doing, and you know, we have to put them somewhere. We have done a lot in this district, an unbelievable amount in the last 3 or 4 years. And the last time we did any major renovation was probably 13, 14 years ago. So, you know, there comes a time when, and that, you know, when we now know things that the community told us through a survey and a committee, we need to investigate it. It doesn't mean that we'll be able to do everything. It would be great if we could, and who knows, maybe we can. But we have to investigate it. So we had a really good, and Mr. Kelly, you know, if there's anything I'm leaving out, with Mr. Chapin, it was a good hour-long conversation. He gets the fact that this is exploratory, but it's exploratory looking for almost, I'm thinking of it almost as an a la carte type of menu where we could look at every building and how it would address needs and what, if any, or how much, if any, or can we do all, and we could then decide where to go. You know, to look at buildings individually and see how they impact the big picture. So I'm looking forward to, and I thought the summer where, usually the meetings don't have as much in terms of presentations and things like that, we'll be able to devote full attention and as much time as we want to the dialogue with the architect.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay. Great. So now we're up to the report of the president, which tonight is me. So Kevin McLean's not with us tonight, unfortunately, but since he's not here, I'm going to steal his line, which he often says in board meetings, and then just also just as reminders to the board from time to time that it's not our job as board members to run the schools, but to ensure that the schools are well run. I think we are all happy tonight that there is a motion on the agenda to extend the contract for Mr. Hurley for an additional 5 years. I think there's probably no greater responsibility for a Board of Education but to find and support the strongest leader that we can for our district, and certainly Mr. Hurley has demonstrated that he is a wonderful leader for this district, and we are all, as board members, community members, parents, family members, very fortunate to have him in the seat. So we look forward to moving that item tonight. And I'll also say that in the personnel section that Ms. Ahmed will be moving, you'll see that Mr. Hurley's annual goals are also being moved tonight, which he has successfully completed. And again, these are not easy goals. These are goals. Many of the themes we've heard tonight: technology, communication with the community, moving forward with the reorganization, really examining what's happening with standardized testing. And these are all very strategic and thoughtful goals, and Mr. Hurley has made tremendous accomplishments in a relatively short tenure as superintendent. If we think about all of the things that have happened under his tenure to date, we have the opening of the start of full-day kindergarten, the opening of the kindergarten center, the creation of the new preschool program, the reorganization of the schools, the significant and powerful expansion of the in-district special education services, the progress towards one-to-one, and I'm sure I'm forgetting other things as well, but really the list is amazing and impressive. So, like I said before, I feel that we are in the best position possible moving forward with the passing of the motion on the agenda tonight, and I fully support the extension of the contract, and we're looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Yes. And that's it for the report of the president. So next we have the meeting open to the public. Do we have any members of the public? Please come forward. You've also been very patiently waiting tonight.
For a good cause.
Okay. If you could share with us your name and your address.
Absolutely. Superintendent, Madam President, my name is Lou Turco. I am a member of the Hawthorne Board of Education. I am also the father of the Hawthorne softball coach and special ed teacher, Jackie Turco Fort, and the proud grandfather of Camden Thomas Fort. Camden was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis pre-birth about 2 years ago. CF is a disease that affects both the lungs and the pancreas. It is considered by the federal government an orphan disease, meaning it does not receive any federal funding. All funding for research is private, but I am not here to talk to you about CF. I'm here to publicly thank and recognize your head softball coach and teacher, Helen Anzelides. A brief story: about a year ago, Hawthorne was here playing Rutherford down at Memorial Field, and I had the opportunity to get to that game. I don't get the opportunity to come to many. And at the end of the game, I see Coach Helen and my daughter Jackie walking arm in arm out to center field. And they just kept going and going. I thought they were going to go into the Passaic River. They were walking so far. Eventually they turned around and came back, and Jackie came up to me, and as I wait for her after every game, with tears in her eyes. And I said to her, what's wrong? And to paraphrase her, she said, "You're not going to believe what Helen just said to me." She said, "Next year, we're going to hold a softball tournament here in Rutherford to raise money for cystic fibrosis." Well, this past April 30th, that gesture became reality. I know through the efforts of many of your children here in town, many people that I guess work in the recreation department. Helen had them out there till 1 o'clock Sunday morning making the Little League baseball field a softball field because they had to knock down the mound. But I've always been a big believer in sport. I've been an athlete my entire life. And sport brought my daughter and your coach together. But what Helen did on that day, April 30th, was she took a lesson as an educator that wasn't part of any curriculum. And she taught children here in Rutherford, children from Pequannock, from Hawthorne, from Cresskill, from Ridgefield Park, Immaculate Heart Academy, and I know I'm missing a few. And she showed them what it was like to give hope to people and to put a smile on people's faces. So I know you've had a lot of presentations tonight. I would just like to simply say on behalf of my fellow board members in Hawthorne, but more importantly from my family, we, again, publicly thank you for allowing, and I hope supporting Helen for doing what she did, and words just cannot describe our feelings towards her. If you have any questions, I'll gladly answer them. If not, thank you so much.
I want to thank you for taking the time to come down, and I will certainly share your comments with Helen, and maybe Mr. Met, we could get a copy of this video for Coach A. The memo, the letter I gave her after the event echoed a lot of what you said, because the lesson that she taught the students, the student athletes, and the community and the coaches.
Yes.
And what really is supposed to happen on the field, in terms of camaraderie. And, Coach A is, for years I've worked with her here in the high school and then now as superintendent. She is one of a kind in terms of her heart and her dedication to her students and her colleagues. So, we certainly wish the best for your family and for you. And, we're grateful for Coach A and for our kids and our community. And you're right, the whole community, because I said, why are you doing it on the Little League field? She said, I want to make it more like a tournament. I want to make it special. I want
she did it. It was special.
Yeah. And, and the guys in the DPW and the rec department, it really was a community effort. So we wish we didn't have to do it, but we're happy to. And
it is what it is.
We wish you everything, all but the best.
Thank you. And it just so happens on that same day, actually for a week prior to and afterwards, the pharmaceutical company Allergen was doing a documentary on my family, and especially my daughter in Camden. And there's a lot of footage that was taken down Memorial, and as soon as we're able to, we would like to forward it on to you as well.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks for taking the time to come here tonight. It's well, much appreciated.
Do we have any other members from the public who would like to speak tonight? Okay. Hearing none, we will move on to new business. I'll ask Mrs. Ahmed to give us the personnel report.
Yes, there's so many diverse motions tonight. I'm just going to say I'd like to move motions 1 through 37.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second. Second.
Any discussion? Questions?
Just one quick comment. It is a lot of motions, as you said, with filling new positions, replacement positions, summer positions. Our programs are fully staffed. We will be adding a few more ESY teacher assistants for the summer, probably at the June meeting, as we see the kids that are coming in. We also hope to be fully staffed by the end of June with the known openings that we currently have. So we're moving along with that. You know, there'll always be one or two surprises in the summer, but we're making good progress with our positions.
And I'd just like to point out that one of the 37 items is the extension of Mr. Hurley's contract as well. Okay.
Okay. Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Mr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mrs. Librera?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Okay. So moving on to curriculum and instruction, Ms. Jones?
There was a curriculum and instruction meeting on Monday, May 22nd. Mr. Hurley, Mr. Dennis Healy, Kevin Clean, Greg Racine, Brendan Fargo, and myself were there. Most of the things we'll be covering have been covered tonight. The only other thing I would just like to add is the district will be going to GNL on August 1st. On the curriculum instruction, there are 6 resolutions for board consideration. 1, to accept the $62,380 in grant funds from the Rutherford Education Foundation. 2, approval for home instruction for 2 students. 3, approval of the revised curriculum goals. 4, approval of the English class textbook. There are 2 4s listed. So the resolution 5 is the approval of the comprehensive equity plan, and resolution 6 is the approval of out-of-district placements.
Okay. Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Any questions?
Just for clarity, the comprehensive equity plan was approved last year. It's a 3-year plan, and then annually I have to sign a statement of assurance that we still have the plan in place and we follow it. So the plan was approved and by the board and sent to the board last year, and this is an annual event. And as we've said countless times, the list of curriculum is basically doing with the standards realignment. And we have a few more that'll be coming. They all have to be in line by September. So there'll be a few more in our either July or August meeting.
I move the following resolutions 1 through 6.
Second.
Okay. Go ahead. Call the roll.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes, I only see.
There's a misnumbering in there.
Yeah, there's a number 4. Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Mr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mrs. Librera?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to finance. Mr. Racine?
There was no finance meetings last night. There are 10 items on the agenda tonight, plus 3 others that last minute I'll get to. Numbers 1, 2, 3 are the routine approval of bills, the Secretary Treasurer's report, and budget transfers. Number 4 are custodial services consulting. Number 5 is the HCES contract. 6 is the computer equipment acquisition and financing. 7 is the purchase of a mass and focus system. 8 is the SPJC contract service agreement. Then we have workers' comp, number 9, the workers' comp fund, and 10 is a license to renew Linkit. And we also have 3 others, numbers 11, 12, and 13, which number 11 is the acquisition of Chromebooks. Number 12 is the lease purchase of Chromebooks. Number 13 is the lease purchase reimbursement, which Mr. Kelly, over to you.
Well, I really don't think those are the only motions you have questions on, but I'll start with those.
No. Let's start with those.
Numbers 11, 12, and 13 are kind of a late-breaking thing. This has to do with what Mrs. O'Donnell was talking about before, which is the one-to-one initiative and the efforts of the district to get to that elusive one-to-one in the new school year. So to do that, we'll be leasing the remainder of the Chromebooks needed to get us to that standard. So the way this is working is that, see, the motion number 11 is approving us to issue a purchase order and purchase those Chromebooks at a total of $191,000. You'll note that it says funds for the lease purchase of this equipment are included in the 17-18 budget, not the purchase, the lease purchase. So then, number 12, now you're authorizing me to go out and negotiate a lease purchase agreement to fund those Chromebooks. Okay, and that's what all that's doing. So then what happens is once that is done, and I'm optimistic that we'll have, you know, a good result on that, but once that is done, then the company that issues that statement providing us with these lease funds deposits that money in a escrow account. And what I then do is go back and then request a reimbursement from them for the funds we paid out under number 11. Okay, which would be, I think it's a 4-year lease. So roughly a quarter of the funds will be our obligation in 17-18, but I would be requesting reimbursement for the other 3/4 of the funds. So that's how that works, and this is how it worked for, you know, the trucks we bought in the last couple of years. Is how it worked for the network reconfiguration we did 2 years ago that Mrs. O'Donnell also mentioned. So you know, so that's what I'm looking for permission to do, or the authority to do. Okay, and then to go back, if I may, please.
Particularly number 9.
Yeah, yes.
Number 9. What is number 9?
The workers' compensation.
Oh, oh, you had to ask about this one, did you? We belong to a workers' comp pool. This pool was formed approximately 30 years ago. And one of the founders was my predecessor here by the name of Leon Auger. He was the business administrator at the time, and he and with a couple of professionals had created this pool to get districts together to, you know, obviously to pool their risk and to, you know, to minimize premiums. It's been a very successful pool, but a recent audit of the pool has determined that none of the districts in the pool, there are about 17 of them, have ever approved joining that pool. So it's been very good. It's been very helpful to us. This is just a formality to get us in the pool. Everybody in the pool.
Who discovered that? Mr. Kelly, who discovered that?
The auditors from the state. Well, they discovered a lot of things, but nothing too scary. Nothing too scary. Just to go back, talk about the number 4, the custodial services consulting. Advocate is the company we've engaged for the last 4 years to come in and monitor our contract with the nighttime custodial company. Those funds are actually included in the price we are paying the custodial company. So we make them pay for their own monitoring. So you know, so there's really no budget impact there. The HC, number 5, the HCESC contract, that is directly related to number 6, which is the authorization to lease Apple equipment. Historically, we have always gone through the Middlesex, what's now called the Educational Service Commission of New Jersey, which had a contract with Apple, and we worked with them. As of a year or so ago, they lost that contract, so that nobody could buy Apple products without going through the bid process, which would turn this into a major project just to get the equipment we need. So HCESC, which is the Hunterdon County Educational Service Commission, it's another group that we do participate in, they were able to get a contract with Apple. But in order to take part in that contract, we have to have this motion. And actually, we took part in this last year too, and the board approved this exact same motion a year ago. So it's really just acknowledging that we have a commitment to Apple products, because that's what's, you know, in our schools, apart from the Chromebooks, but the other, you know, the staff computers, the library desktops, those are all Apple. A lot of our infrastructure hardware is Apple. So we needed a statement that says we're committed to Apple, and Hunterdon County Ed Services can provide that for us. So that's what that's doing. And then number 6 is the actual, approval to proceed with the lease with Apple. And this is, I think, the 4th year we've had a new Apple lease. So you've seen this one before too for different things. I'm sorry, Mrs. Jones?
Are we still doing business with Middlesex?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In other areas?
Well, if you look at, when we get to buildings and grounds, you'll see them all over the place. I think everything else is fairly straightforward, unless somebody has a question.
No, again, I know it seems like a lot of language for a couple of, like Mr. Kelly and I were talking this afternoon. I said, this, although I don't know if I would actually give him the money, I would say if we went out for dinner and he put it on his credit card, then I'll give him the money later on. So now I know that the Hunterdon and Middlesex will actually give us the money, but maybe he doesn't get the money from me. But no, it's a lot of this we've been doing now every year. But every time we get through a new one, we have to have all the same approval of the different steps, and it's really a way. Again, Mr. Kelly credit, and Ms. O'Donnell, who's also works with him in the area of the technology, to to make these advancements at a more rapid pace, because we can put the payment out over a few years and we don't have to wait 4 or 5 years, and by the time you actually are whole, you're obsolete. So this has worked well for us, and it's just a continuation of that program.
Yes.
Okay. I think we did. You move? Have you moved them yet?
No.
Okay.
So I'd like to move finance numbers 1 through 13.
Excellent.
Second.
Second. Dennis.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Mr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mrs. Librera?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Okay, so we are up to policy. And Mr. Rowland, can you give us the report, please?
Okay, there's one resolution regarding the Strauss Esme policy. In our packet today, we had 3 examples of the updates we'll get from them. I believe everyone had a chance to review at least some of the changes. So it's one thing to vote on. So I move that we make that resolution, number 1.
A couple of things. I don't know how much you could or would look at about 2,000 pages, but you have it, and we also have it posted on the web now for anybody in the public who wants to look at it. We have the both as an attachment with the agenda link, but also on the policy page, we have the header that says this manual will be adopted after July 1st, and then the existing policies are still there. So anybody in the public who wants to look can look. As we've talked about now for almost a year, there's been a year's worth of work and reading and studying and meeting on it. The majority of the policies are just numbering changes. There are some different policies that cover topics that maybe we had combined into one, that they maybe now have in 3 different areas. So there are 3 brand new policies. I'm just going to mention those 3. I included them in your packet. One is the opioid antidote policy, and that's a policy in which the doctor would give standing orders and to a certified nurse who would have to also be trained. And should there be anyone in the building, and this is not just about students, it's about anyone, an adult, a worker, a parent, if the nurse happens to be at a school play or a school basketball game and somebody in the stands, if the nurse, you call 911, that was anybody would do, but if the nurse is present, she can, and she feels, based on her knowledge, that this may be what's causing it, she can provide the antidote. So that's a new policy. You've probably been seeing that many school districts and municipalities are adopting it. The second brand new policy, and that's why I highlighted these 3. They're the only 3 that are really totally brand new. Okay, others may be variations of a theme, is medical marijuana policy for students. If a student is prescribed medical marijuana, there's procedure that they have to have the parent bring in documentation that has to be approved by the nurse and also by the school physician. Unlike some other medication that would get housed in school for the nurse to give, this policy says the parent or guardian or caregiver comes into the school at the prescribed time and gives it in the nurse's office, or if the nurse is not available, in the principal's office, and the medication doesn't stay on site. The third one, it deals with unmanned aircraft, otherwise known as drones. I think it's a policy. I mean, they're everywhere. I mean, our Union School, the reason I didn't mention it was because some of these kids who are here tonight are not the ones who were there. But the last week, they did a drone competition in the South Bergen schools, and they took a first place in one area and a second in another. So with the unmanned, there's two parts to it. No one can fly a drone over school property without school permission. So if there's someone lives in the neighborhood, some guy across the street, somebody might be taking pictures, whatever, we can get the authorities to find out who it is and prohibit that. However, if there's a non-school personnel, for example, we were talking with Mr. Paterno that some roofing companies now take aerial photographs of roofs when they're going to repair them using a drone. So in that case, the school would give permission, I would give permission, to say it could be there. Then if the school has drones in their STEM program or science programs, whatever they may be, they have to be in compliance with FAA regulations, which vary based on your location near airports. We obviously are in the path of both Teterboro, Newark, and even the New York City airports, so we would have very strict regulations about the height and the type that you get, and before you purchase a drone for a class, you'd have to make sure they fit that requirement. So those are the three policies that are really new. I see no problem with any of them. I mean, our kids are already working with drones in the competition. I think the medical marijuana is being prescribed to people, and we should at least have a policy for it. And with the opioid, I mean, it doesn't mean anything about our population of the borough or the school system. It means that if something happens and we have an opportunity to save somebody's life, not to have the policy there that allowed us to do it seems to be insane. So those are the three new ones. So if we approve the manual tonight on a first reading, it will be on for the second reading at the end of the month, and then effective July 1st. And then, but in between, Strauss Esme will be sending us final drafts, with the dates of adoption on, and working with us about the online system. Just one more thing I've been saying about the benefits of Strauss Esme. They sent us, I had sent you a bunch of attachments, because they sent us about 20 or 30 policies and regulations that had code changes. So instead of saying annual written evaluation, it said annual evaluation, things like that. I sent it back to them to say, listen, I don't want to approve the old policy and then have to approve all these new ones immediately. Can you update everything and get them back to me? They got it back to us within about 3-4, by the next day I had them all back and done. Friday, Mr. Kelly attended a very, very powerful and informative seminar that they housed down at what college? In Brookdale Community, about school law, policy changes. I mean, there's more workshops than you can even attend there. And then they give an all-inclusive binder that we can bring back, and it gives them guidance. So these are the services that are all part of just being part of their family. We get monthly updates. So I think we're going to be very happy with them. There will be some growing pains, I asked all the principals and administrators, make sure you double check all your handbooks and your code of conducts and everything, because, you refer to dress code policy number. Well, the dress code policy has a different number now. And I'm sure there'll be a couple of hiccups where, something will fall through the cracks. But we'll work it all out as we go through. So that's it. Any questions?
I do request that the end of this vote, I have we can have a 3-minute recess. It's urgent.
Okay.
Okay.
We are very close also to finishing. I'm hoping. Okay, so so you moved it. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Kelly, can you call the roll?
Any questions?
No.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Mr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mrs. Librera?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Okay. So we'll take a 3-minute recess.
It's a lot of fluid.
Yes. Yeah. The daughter has a thing at high school where it is just having her Daisy moving up ceremony, the brownies.
To tell you the truth, I think I'm okay to just attend the ceremony. I'm not going to stay for the reception.
Ceremony.
Right?
Ceremony's at 8, right?
Yeah. I'm not gonna.
That's I have to be at the high school at 7:30 for Phoebe's moving up ceremony. So maybe after that I'll swing by. It's always important to go from daisies and brownies. Make sure you're there to see that as well.
You'll be held accountable. Yeah, I'll probably be able to go. I'm just going to go for the ceremony and see that, but I don't think I'll stay because the reception will be all the children. Right?
You think you'll go to graduation? High school? I didn't go last year. I had a schedule.
Yeah, actually, I'm traveling the next day, but I think I will go if it's open.
Yeah, of course.
Are you going to this celebration on the 14th? The end of year? You're not.
The one that was having it like Fiesta. Yeah.
So
No, it's
depending on how much I do, I've never been able to
last year. We had to play 2 nights.
If you can't
Now you're competing with all the activities.
Right.
Especially now, right?
Yeah, end of school year, really tough.
breakfast
So that I won't be going to.
But I asked her, I was at the kindergarten PTA. Greg was there. Greg has a daughter.
Yeah, it's really nice. Nice to see that.
So I asked, I said, isn't there a
Okay, we are back in action. Oh, I could have used my gavel for that, probably. Missed gavel opportunity.
I didn't have time.
Okay, so we are up to buildings and grounds. Mr. Mazzone.
Yes, I think there was a 3.5-minute delay.
I tried.
So there has not been a building and grounds meeting since we last convened. However, there are 6 resolutions on the agenda this evening. I'll just briefly run through those resolutions. The first resolution is a request for waiver of fees in support of project graduation. The second is a shared services addendum. I just wanted to clarify, either for Jack or Joe, the effective date said 7/1 of 14. I presume that's...
Yeah, no, we have a shared service agreement with the borough that we put into place on July of 2014.
Got it.
Goes for 5 years, so this is an addendum to that agreement.
Got it. Okay, very good. So it started July 1st, 2014, running through June 30th, 2019. And this is a shared services agreement to support children with IEPs for the extended school year program. Resolution number 3 is the boiler replacement at the Washington School. The total cost of this project is $108,350 to be funded by the 2017-2018 budget. Item number 4 is the installation of a wireless clock system at the Pierpont School for a total cost of $14,336, again funded by the 2017-2018 budget. Resolution item number 5 is the replacement of the roof at the Rutherford High School on the Mortimer wing at a total cost of $435,547.22, funded through 2017-2018 budget. Item number 6 is the solicitation for bids for the intercom system at the Union School. For that, there were 2 bids that were received, with the lower and suggested awarded bid going to Bingham Communications in the amount of $26,975. So I put these resolutions forward.
Thank you. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, questions? Okay.
I'll just mention on numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6, we, well, 3, 4, and 5 in particular, we went out to some of these cooperative purchasing agreements that we do participate in. And to Mrs. Jones' question a couple minutes ago, number 4 and number 5, we are working through the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey, which used to be the Middlesex Regional Ed Services Commission. It's just a name change. The first one is Educational Data Services. That's also a cooperative purchasing thing that we do participate in. The number 6 was just kind of interesting if you're interested in that sort of thing. Open Systems Integrators did some work in this school about 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. The whole fire alarm renovation system renovation, and they did a good job. They are under also the Educational Service Commission of New Jersey, but we also reached out to Bingham Communications, who is the acknowledged expert on school communication systems, and they came in substantially lower, which doesn't surprise me because we've had them do other work for us, and they typically come in lower than we expect them to. So, they do a great job. So I think we could have done real well with either one of those companies, but we could save half the cost. So.
And Bingham did our sound system, our clocks. They did that for us here, and they were fine. And the follow-up service is great.
Great.
And resolution number 2, we've been doing that service for a handful of kids who leave our ESY program and go to camp for a number of years now. But we thought. Speaking with some of the members of the council, it's, again, one of those things you do, but why not codify it to make sure that they know we're going to hold up our end and they're going to hold up their end of that deal.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion? All right, ready for the vote?
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Mr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mrs. Librera?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to old business. Yes.
In your packet, you have invitations to the baccalaureate. Most people don't know what it is. It's a spiritual celebration for the high school seniors. And different ministers, there's like 4 ministers, I think, this year, will be giving like a presentation to all the children. The high school choir will be there, and refreshments will be served. That was my job because I represent the high school and nobody else would do it, so Margot and I are doing this. So if you have time, come in. It's really nice, and we need people to participate because for years now it's been going.
Yeah. It's a very nice ceremony, but it is attendance some years is low, and some years not so low, but it's very nice ceremony.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
Just a quick note. The play was wonderful. Both The Wizard of Oz for the middle school and the 4th, 5th grade, of which Max Maison did a wonderful lead as Centipede.
Yes, he was the centipede.
It was great. They all were. It was just delightful. It was great. As well as all the programs. I made most of the art shows. They were terrific. It really was. That list in May is really quite comprehensive, but if you can get around to see some of them, it's really moving to see how well our kids do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a reminder about graduation tickets, if you get in touch with as soon as you can with Mrs. Steele, if you're interested.
Sure.
One other thing, at the Bergen County Board meeting, they asked us to go back to our district to see if there's any board members that have been with us 10, 15, or 20 years. I've been on 15 years, but Shelley's also been on 15 years. So I'm gonna get a hold of Ray Penny and make sure that she gets a pin also.
Excellent.
And it says, I'm sorry, it says it's a school board pin that you've been a board member for 15 years. And Kevin is like 13, so he'll get a 10-year pin and then in 2 more years. The rest of you got a lot of catch up to do.
This is your second award tonight.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you and me are the only people who remember Georgie Jessel. You're like Georgie Jessel with all the...
Well, no, I just wore it because I had hoped that Matt could bring them up for Shelley, but he said it has to go to the field, the coordinator, which is Ray Penny, and you know, I'll handle that.
And congratulations again on your award, Dan.
Janet Lobson was a great field rep, and she just told us back in the 80s when I first knew her, that's when budgets were failing all over, and you have to do this for your children. She really taught us to really be good board members, and I've always just admired her, and so when the award came up, somebody said, you know what, can I talk? So
Excellent.
She was great.
Excellent choice.
Thank you very much. Go Compass is greatly appreciated. Do you want a quick review of what happened? I'll do it in 2 minutes.
For the legislative update?
Or do you want to skip it?
Yes. Well, you have executive session for 2 student issues and maybe a personnel one as well, right?
Yeah. Our executive session may be lengthy.
I'll just tell you the 2 resolutions that we talked about. One was of the charter schools that they didn't want. The representatives voted to send the matter back. They tabled it, and so this is if it was a charter school in an area that was a good school system, that they couldn't do it. So that's going to be back for discussion. And the other resolution had to do with shared superintendents, and they did pass that. So that's that.
You don't want to share me, do you?
Well, in districts that need
Yeah.
it for an interim, where you can have, for instance, like East Rutherford,
Right.
where they have.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So now I think we do need an executive session tonight. We have 2 student matters that we need to discuss and also a personnel matter, which is in this sealed envelope here. So can I hear a motion for that?
Motion.
Okay. Second? All right. So there
will not be.
There will not be action taken. I expect that we'll be back. We'll be gone 30 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right. Oh. Thanks.